Join the Wozniak family. Okay, she's like so bitter, facing the other direction. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am really excited for today's video because I have two very special guests with me here on the channel. First, we'll introduce Miss Riley the cow.
She's like, actually, I'm not gonna make an appearance.
Hello! So this is Riley Wozniak, and this is Jason, my husband. You guys have probably seen him in our vlogs, but we needed formal introductions.
Wow.
Okay.
What are we talking about today?
For today's video, we are gonna discuss debt, student loans, finances, and more so, we wanted to talk about our experience with debt and then experience of the past year with no debt. We paid off our debt in October of 2019. I actually just got a notification on my phone. It was the 18th that we paid it off. So it's relatively new that it's been like around a year that we've been completely debt-free from car payments, student loans, all of that. And we've noticed just this huge shift in our lives having been debt-free now for a year. So we wanted to talk to you guys about being in debt and then being out of debt because a lot of y'all have joined in on my channel, I guess after we
since the beginning of this crazy year.
Yeah,
we had a couple different forms of debt. Both of us went to school for 2 years, so had a few years of college debt, and then I had a car loan as well. I had like we don't have to get into it, but basically
we've
a car
before.
situation. Yeah, so. Long
story short, we had a car that was really unreliable and really expensive to maintain, and so we decided that for us, well, it kind of died, basically. So we had to get a new car. And it was either we buy another really cheap car and fix it up every single couple of months, or we would finance, put 5 down, but then finance the rest and get a car, Honda CR-V, that would be reliable and something that we wouldn't have to like constantly dump money into. And so we had that loan from financing it, and honestly, it actually worked out really well.
It's been good.
That Honda CR-V is reliable.
The goal was sort of to finance the cheapest reliable car that we could.
We were definitely not reaching for anything that was like a goals car. It was just like what will literally get us from point A to point B.
Don't disrespect the CR-V
no,
like
the
that.
CR-V
It
is
a goals
beautiful.
car.
I actually do love our CR-V. It's a little slow getting on the highway, but it gets us where we need to go, and it's great. Yeah, we had student loans, both of us did, and then we had this car payment. What was it, 2018, we decided, let's get our crap together and figure out where our money's going. Not even like really come up with a debt-free plan, but more so just like first step was getting our eyes on our finances, going through our transactions and being like where's our money actually going? Because I feel like for us in our first year of marriage, we were spending money like eating out, or we would like spend it on something random, and we never really had eyes on each dollar. And so Jason's idea.
Yeah, I thought maybe we'd go to Target and somehow spend $50 because that's what happens every time you go to Target. But no, we bought just like a paper calendar, and I know there are apps that do this, but I don't know. I'm just that guy who like wants to do it the way I want to do it.
Physical way.
So we went and bought a paper calendar, real physical paper, and at the end of every day we just got together and like wrote down what we spent that day.
But we put it like right in front of the stairs to go upstairs, so
you
like
couldn't miss it,
you couldn't like forget about it or go to bed without seeing the calendar. So every day of October, we would go through each of our bank charges and write down everything. So whether that was we ate out at Chick-fil-A a lot, or it was we had $12 come out for Netflix, or phone payment, or health insurance, like little things that are automatic charges that you're not conscious that you're spending, but they come out. And so things like if you did like a 6-month, because you pay your insurance, or we pay your insurance every 6 months, so we would do that and just divide it by 6. So that way you at least kind of know your baseline for your monthly debt. And so we did that, and it honestly just helped us get an eye of like, okay, at the very least, this is how much we need to survive, to pay our rent, to pay for our insurances, to pay for gas, groceries, all that stuff. We also discovered that eating at home saves you so much money. What did it break down to?
It's like $2.14 per person per meal. And this was in a month too where we spent like $198 at Chick-fil-A and like $120 on coffee, and
y'all would be so proud.
We don't do that anymore.
We literally never go to Chick-fil-A anymore. Like, it never happens.
We do still love it, but
we do love it, but we just don't go anymore.
Yeah.
I think we've gotten in a really good habit of eating at home.
Really more for health reasons.
Yeah.
However,
we just feel
not
better.
That it matters,
anyway,
regardless.
Long story short, you spend a lot less money eating at home. Anyway, we figured out our baseline expenses, and then basically everything on top of that, we would take extra jobs, do all the most random things. I took like some modeling jobs, I did some content creating for other influencers and YouTubers, did basically every job that I could, and same with you.
Yeah, I took every tour imaginable and spent 9 months on the road out of the year, and yeah, basically worked like 2 jobs.
Yeah, we basically worked all the time.
Crazy.
And for some reason, by some miracle, we paid off our debt October 18th of 2019. And I think we started with we started with the car.
Yeah, we sort of did the debt snowball, but like logically. So like, for example, like a car is a depreciating asset. So like the longer you hold on to it and the more you don't own of it, the more money you're losing. Regardless, it just felt like, man, it would suck if like this thing that we didn't own fully broke down and we had to pay to repair something that we didn't have full ownership of. So in my brain, it was like, let's just pay that off first.
No, we did my student loans first, right? We finished my loans because I didn't have very much left. When I got out of college, I put a ton of money on student loans. Every dollar I made, I feel like I just put on student loans because I was like, I don't want to have this hanging over my head. And I lived at home for a year, so that really helped me just like really get my student loans down.
Before we were
so
married,
it was mostly your student loans and then the car. So we did the $1,000 emergency fund because you needed that backup.
Yeah.
Those backup funds, because you never know. And then we did, the car. And then your student loans was really like what we had to like chip away at.
My student loans were sort of felt like the bigger chunk. I mean, it's definitely the larger dollar amount.
So now that we've been debt free for a year, our second step, as soon as we became debt free, was bumping our 1 month emergency fund up to 6 months. 6 month emergency fund just feels really good because when you're freelance like we are, you just never know what's gonna happen. Some months are great, some months are really slow, sometimes jobs get canceled. It's very up in the air, and so
sometimes there's a global pandemic.
Sometimes COVID comes and just wreaks havoc on your life.
And
but
I think too, like just as an adult, like you can look at life in 2 ways. Like you can look at the unexpected thing as the variable, or you can look at you being prepared as the variable. And to me, it feels like the mature way to approach life would be to say, there's going to be an unexpected AC bill, or we just repaired our windshield on a car.
That's
like,
something
those
that
things
I love to learn.
Those things are unavoidable, and like the only thing that you can control in that equation is like how prepared you are for something unexpected to come up.
That's so true, because like for some reason I'm always shocked that we have a car problem, but
every time there's a repair bill,
like, what do you mean it broke down, or a windshield cracked?
That's what cars do. They break down.
Yeah. So basically we decided that as soon as we paid off our debt, we wanted to do our 6 month emergency fund. We got that, and then we decided, you know what? Well, no, the pandemic hit.
Literally right when we finished it.
Yes, we had literally finished our 6 month emergency
fund. Like in the
fund.
end of February.
Went on our 2 year honeymoon, not honeymoon, I always call it honeymoon. Our 2 year anniversary trip, came back, pandemic hit, and we decided that every dollar that we made above what we needed to live off of all March and April, and I feel like mostly May, we were just like, tuck it away, let's try to get it up to a year emergency fund. Because back in March and April, it was who knows what's gonna happen.
We're buying toilet paper at Costco and like 2 or 3 bags of chicken breasts because we're like, I don't know what's, there's like that time, when like you couldn't get paper towel or something.
I literally was in a CVS trying to pick up a prescription, and I look down like the aisles and they're like, out of toilet paper, out of hand sanitizer, out of like everything. Obviously you guys experienced it too. And so then it's just kind of like, we gotta build up this emergency fund. We just need to save as little, like as much as we can.
That's the main thing.
I don't even know what to call it, an emergency fund. We were saving at that point. So then we, decided to bump it up to a year because you just never know. COVID has lasted it's gonna last a year.
Probably.
So having that just gave us so much peace of mind, knowing that, okay, if everything goes wrong. We both lose our jobs. There's a lot of stuff that could obviously go wrong, and so having that peace of mind, I think, allowed us to take a step back and not act in panic and to not act out of fear, but to be like, okay, we have what we need to survive, and then to actually like take a second to process actions versus being in like panic mode where we're like, we gotta do this, we gotta do that, or like saying,
yeah, it's like we don't have to be reactionary now. We can pause. For example, like the band that I was planning on touring with a bunch this year, I have not toured with at all, obviously, and that's just a reality of the year we're in. But having savings allows us to not freak out and stress about something that is a temporary loss. Like, you know, like there will be tours again, like we will play shows and live music will come back eventually, and then we'll build it back up, you know? So after knocking up a debt and then trying to do some emergency funds, then you start to look at, okay, like maybe we can do retirement, or maybe like we should do retirement. We're young, we're both self-employed, and certainly like while in debt, like that's just not something you're thinking about.
Yeah, we didn't have retirement. Or did we while we had debt?
No, we didn't.
Yeah, you're right. We started retirement after because we were just so focused, on getting that done.
Yeah, and so as like we start to sort of hit some of those goals, and looking forward now, we're, you know, saving for a house, trying to buy our first home, like all that stuff like feels good and is awesome or whatever. But I think like the main surprise to me about all of this was the health that it brought to our like personal lives and our marriage and other areas. Because once you eliminate, there's a lot of like stressors in life, right? But money arguably is the biggest stressor.
Yes.
For most people.
They'll warn you, whether you're single or married, it doesn't really matter. Money is always going to be some sort, like it's a very emotional subject. Like we have very emotional ties to buying things or to money, and so a lot of times your actions with money are more emotionally based than you realize.
Yeah.
And so
yeah, especially like when it's an adjustment, and this is, you know, coming from, we've only been married like 2.5 years, but there was definitely an adjustment period too of like when you're the one earning the money, you're like, oh, like this is kind of weird to view this as like our money now. And like even that's like an adjustment where you're not so like, oh, well, I, you know, before I was married, I used to just buy guitars, and now, you know, like, and so I think like that was a good lesson. But yeah, once you like pull out money being a stressor in your life, like it allows you to focus on other things. So for us, that's looked like focusing on like emotional health and physical health and the health of our marriage.
And honestly, like having that, like having debt, I feel like it's just like an underlying, I don't know, it's like an underlying feeling. It's not something that's on your mind all the time. It wasn't like on our mind every single day, every moment of the day. But knowing that at the end of the day, even if you have savings, but you have debt, you still owe that money. And so getting rid of that debt, I feel like freed us up so much mentally, because then saving means like it's yours. So even though it did suck to like put money away in savings every single month, it was like, oh, like we can't just go like spend this. It was so much better than putting that onto something that we couldn't, like we wouldn't have anymore. Like when you put your money into debt, obviously you don't have it anymore. But saving has been really exciting for us, because once your debt is gone, all of that money that you're saving, it's still yours. And even retirement, like even though we don't really get to touch retirement and there's like a penalty for pulling it out early, like looking at in that account and knowing that, okay, at the end of the day, it is still ours. Like we did put this in here. That's like such a freer feeling, I guess, than putting money into like a pit and being like, well, that was nice.
I view like being debt free as like a foundation of life, and if you never address your foundation, there's only like so high you can build the house, you know?
Yeah.
Like it has to be built on solid ground, and until you address that issue, whatever it is, you can't, not that life is all about progress necessarily, but like there's a lot of things you just can't do when you have debt.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have debt, getting a loan is harder, purchasing a house is harder. Like there are actual practical things that are affected by having debt. Mostly I feel like where we really have seen it, like you said, is emotionally. Being able to take that energy and time that we would think about our debt, we've been able to like pour into things that are really life fulfilling, like pouring into people, getting coffee with people, going on runs, being outside, taking care of our body. We really started getting into our diet and like our nutrition.
As a married couple paying off debt, maybe this doesn't apply to being single, but for us, having a goal that early in our marriage that we could like 100% agree on and be on the same page about was so good for us, because I think it showed us that like over a extended period of time, if we can focus on something together, we can get something done, you know? And I think that was encouraging. And really, I feel like, for me at least, what gave me the courage to be like, well, if we can do that, then like what happens if I run every day in 2020, you know?
Yeah.
Or like what happens if we start eating well? Yeah, mentally, that it's just a good box to check, you know?
It's like exercising a muscle. Like it doesn't feel good. And most of the time, you just absolutely dread putting money onto debt. But once you've like gotten through it, it's so rewarding. And I also feel like once you've exercised that muscle, and that's why the debt snowball is a thing, is because once you've exercised the muscle to pay off a small loan, you have the confidence and you feel like you have that like momentum and that training to put it towards the next loan and then the next loan. And then once you've paid off your debt, you're like, oh, like we've paid this much off in debt. Now we can save like what we had put towards debt every month. Let's try to do that with our savings and put that into a savings account. So then it's not as big of a deal each time you're pulling money out of your checking account to put in a savings account or a house savings or an emergency fund, because you're so used to doing that with your previous debt. So I feel like we've just gotten really like, okay, it's coming out, without being like, oh, I have to pull this money out. And even though like it's going into a savings account, it's not fun money. Like we don't get to go spend it, but it's definitely, it just feels very normal now at this point to like take money and have a place for it. Whereas I think before we paid off our debt, every time it was like, oh, we have to pull money out and put it on this. But now it just feels like part of a month. I don't know.
Yeah, because we're young and we don't have kids yet, there's not like a lot on the line for us to lose, and it just feels like the time, like if there's a time that we want to save and be tight with our money, it's now, you know? Yeah,
because it just feels really common when you do get married young to live in a tiny apartment and to live kind of like tight. And so a lot of our friends are going through the same season that we were when we first got married, and still kind of now. I mean, we still live in a super small place. It's not like the dream or anything, but it's almost easier now because all of our friends are in the same season of life. Whereas I feel like if we tried to tackle this later on, like you said, when we have kids, it's like such a bigger mental hurdle, I feel like. Plus you've already probably will have adjusted to your lifestyle. Like we still live like we're in debt, basically, like for the most part. I mean, we do things a little bit looser now, but we still have this mentality like we don't get to touch that money. It goes into a savings account. So we haven't really upped our means to like the growth of our jobs, because like I've had great growth in my job since 2018 when we were in debt. So I'm really glad that we haven't really changed our lifestyle that much, since honestly we've made our lifestyle cheaper. We eat at home now, way more. So other than like taking a trip or like getting a good piece of gear for work, but most of the investments that we make are for our jobs. But we basically just wanted to share our kind of last year of being debt-free, because I don't know, being debt-free for a year has just been so good for us in our marriage, in our friendships, in our relationship with the Lord, kind of everything. It trickles over into all the parts of your life. And so we just wanted to share our like personal debt story and our debt-free story, because there really is such a significance in paying off your debts. Like it really does affect you and your life way past just like seeing a number that you owe. Like it really is an emotional tie to money, I guess. And when you don't owe any money, you just feel lighter and you feel freer. So closing out, do you have any advice for people who are maybe wanting to start to be debt-free? I had some of y'all DM me when I had posted about the 1 year mark, asking us to do this video. That's why I'm doing this video, because a lot of y'all were like, can you do a video on debt? Because I don't think we ever did a video when we became debt-free. We did like a 2019 year in review, which maybe we touched on it, but we never really like went into it. And after being debt-free for a year, we can tell you there's like a black and white difference between being in debt and being debt-free. So I don't know, do you have any advice for people who are starting in debt? I think mostly it was people who had student loans, which is super common.
My main thing is like, be kind to yourself, go slow. You don't have to do it in 6 months. I feel like you always see those people on Dave Ramsey's repost page where they're
I paid off $600,000 in 2 days. You're like, what?
3 months, and like, I like birthday candles for a living, and you're like, what?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
Literally,
like,
it's some of the craziest
so
stuff.
I feel like it's okay to take your time, but it just requires discipline, I think. It's just like saying no to things that, I don't know, are luxuries or just you don't need. Americans specifically, we tend to just like spend money on things that we just don't need sometimes.
Yeah, and we're
Target,
guilty of it. Yeah.
You go to Target and you spend $50.
You're
It's
getting
just a law,
the fall
you know?
decorations that you don't have room for to store after the season's over.
Yeah, and like you have to be aware of like where your money's going to like understand how to address where it's going.
Yeah, so maybe first step. Yeah, first
Yeah.
step is kind of like what we did. You don't have to go get a paper calendar at Target. You probably shouldn't, because you will leave with more things than you went in for. But yeah, maybe like first step is getting your eyes on everything, seeing where money's going out, and then after writing down maybe every transaction, you start asking yourself, was this actually necessary? If it's health insurance, it's necessary. If it's Burger Up, which maybe it's a local thing, if it's Chick-fil-A, maybe it's not necessary. Like categorizing each thing as like it was a want or a need, and then going from there and being like, okay, out of those wants, like don't deprive yourself of every single thing in the world, but maybe it's like you're only eating out once a week and it's a treat. So intentionality, looking at everything and giving each transaction kind of like a ranking of like how important it actually is when it comes down to it. That was really our first step, was just seeing everything, laying it all out.
Yeah, and then you can understand like where you can eliminate. And I always think about it like, in order to have freedom, you have to understand what you need to be free from. So like there needs to be like rules and boundaries in place so that you have the freedom to like do what you want to do within that. If that means, you know, dropping our Chick-fil-A budget from $200 a month to $50 a month, you know, that might mean we only get to go 2 or whatever 3 times a month. That means when we go that 2 or 3 times, we don't leave being like, oh, we probably should have put this on debt, but we didn't. And it gives you the freedom to go enjoy those things guilt free and know that
you had like budgeted for it or set that money aside for that.
Totally.
So that is our little story of our debt, and obviously everyone's finances are super different. Mostly we just wanted to share our experience of the after feeling of being debt free, because that just honestly feels way more important than like actually being debt free, is the emotional freedom that comes with it. So hopefully that was an interesting or / encouraging story that we got to share with y'all. But thank you guys for watching and being a part of our journey. We were here with y'all when we were in debt in 2018, and I can put that video down below. It just feels really cool to be on the other side, and we want that for everyone. So thanks for checking out this video and watching. If you are new to my channel and you somehow found this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button.
And you're still here.
And you're still here after 20 minutes.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you back on my channel, and we will see y'all in my next one. Bye.
See ya.